having targeted content is very important. It's not the same as it was on Instagram or even TikTok years ago, where the perfectly curated, beautiful feed like that is done, that is dead. We really want authenticity. We really want to see that talking to the camera.
Brianna B, you are the owner and the founder of Authentic Influencer Management Agency. What do you look for in a creator when you're like, yes, I want to sign that person?
Am I a fan of them? Is this a person that I want to follow? So if I don't believe in the person's content and what they're providing, then how am I really going to effectively sell them?
Girl had no presence on Instagram.
It was dead.
It was dead. It was a source of insecurity for me because I know in this industry, it's cutthroat.
You want to work with brands. Yes, it's about beautiful quality. Yes, it's about the growth, it's engagement. Very much at the top there is authentic conversation and building a community in that way. If you need to make $20,000 a month, then baby girl, you better get 2 deals a week. And if that's what you have to do, I'm here to support that.
What advice would you give to somebody who has a smaller following? How can they grow their platform in the right way to attract someone like you to see them?
Well, I feel like
Brianna B, I am so excited to have you on the podcast. Welcome to How She Does It.
yay! I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. This is a long time coming for anybody listening, watching. This is my manager. I have been signed with her for over a year now. We've been working together, and I've watched my revenue go up and up and up. And the deals, the size of the deals, the brands that I've been working with have just continued to grow. And it's just such an amazing experience. So I wanted to bring you on, break down the barriers so that my audience members, the people in my community can really hear and understand how they can attain management and get these brand deals to attain that financial freedom, right?
Totally. I'm so proud of you, Amber. You've done fantastic over the last year plus. And yeah, people have a lot of questions. So let's get into it.
They do. So let's start off with, in your seat, as you have your agency, you manage a bunch of really talented creators. What do you look for in a creator when you're like, yes, I want to sign that person?
Yeah. So I think first of all, when I initially look at their socials, it's, am I a fan of them? Am I personally a fan of them? Is this the type of content that I want to come back to? Is this a person that I want to follow? Because if I don't believe in the person's content and what they're providing, then how am I really going to effectively sell them? So that's number one. And then there are a lot of back end things that just really have to be in place that have to make sense from a business perspective. So I want to see what your engagement looks like. I want to see what your previous partnerships look like. I want to know about what brand relationships you already have. I want to see your engagement metrics. Your demographic is super important because if we are trying to attain deals with brands, we want to make sure that your audience is capable of buying product. If you go viral consistently in Nigeria and your demographic is high over there, although you may have crazy engagement, it may not work from a business perspective. So, those engagement metrics, you can't really compromise on them if you want to have an effective business relationship and if you want to make money from brand partnerships. But overall, my initial thought is this somebody that I really like? Is this somebody who I want to listen to? Is this somebody that I know has talent and people are going to be really into? And sometimes I get that person before they take off and before people see who they are and before that real fan base starts. But I think I have a really good barometer for what is talent and what can be the next big thing.
I love that. And that makes a lot of sense. And one thing that I really, really love and admire and feel loyal to, like with you specifically, is I had a following on on TikTok when you signed me. Girl had no presence on Instagram.
It was dead.
It was dead. And I was like, and it's something that I was like very insecure about, and other like agencies and stuff passed on me. And it was a source of insecurity for me because I know in this industry it's cutthroat, and TikTok tends to be it's just that newer platform. So like you're not getting the highest deals over there like you would Instagram. And so I was worried about that and like my demographics and all that kind of stuff. Like, so what advice would you give to somebody who has like a smaller following and is working to grow their platform? How can they grow their platform in the right way to attract someone like you to see them?
Well, I feel like your focus shouldn't even be on necessarily when you're growing. When your plan is to grow, you really shouldn't even have your mind on a manager. I feel like a manager shouldn't even come in until you're overwhelmed with the business side of things. But I feel like if you want to attract growth, if you want to attract new following, if you want to put yourself in a position to be overwhelmed to get deals in the future, I think really diving in, developing a genuine, strong community is very important. Creators overlook that a lot when their thought is to grow, when their plan is to grow, when they strategize to grow. They forget about community. They forget about that aspect, and they forget that they need a home-based group of people, whether it be 1,000 people or whether it be 300,000 people who are really rooting for them. You have to have communication with your audience. I feel like we want to know feel like we're your friend. So I feel like responding to comments is super important and just really being in connection with your audience. I think really having targeted content is very important in today's market. You know, it's not the same as it was on Instagram or even TikTok years ago, where it was like the perfectly curated, beautiful feed. Like that is done, that is dead. We really want authenticity. We really want to see that talking to the camera. If you're not talking to the camera, we really want a voiceover that's in your very authentic voice. So I feel like if you give us authenticity, if you give us you, if you really tap into what is unique about you and what people like about you, and then dive into those metrics and see what is working consistently and create that again on a consistent basis, that will really help with growth.
That makes a lot of sense. And so like when you think about like all of the platforms that people are on, the big three being like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, what do you feel about somebody just posting on one platform versus diversifying their content and their audience?
I think it's important, particularly when you're starting, to not spread yourself too thin. Try to master one, get one down. Then you can kind of cross promote that same content and see how it sticks on other platforms. Now, there is content that's native to each platform that's going to work better on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. On YouTube, you have that long form content. I feel like people are also getting back into YouTube, which is awesome because you can really gain community on YouTube. People sleep on YouTube, and I think it's definitely a platform to invest in at this point. But I think, you know, you have your short form content on Instagram, on TikTok, but focusing really on just one platform to start, I think makes a ton of sense. Really building a community there first, and then cross promoting some stuff, seeing if it works on other platforms, and then developing a bandwidth to be able to create multiple pieces of content on separate platforms if you have the time and the ability to do that. But I think just mastering one makes a lot of sense to start.
I get that too. And especially like when you're working, like before when I was working my 9 to 5, and if you told me that I needed to post on so many different platforms, I would have told you to like kick rocks. Like it,
How?
because it can be, so, yeah, it's so overwhelming when you're
Mm-hmm.
managing all of these other things. And so when I started, I was really focused on just TikTok. I didn't care about anything else. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
TikTok is my place, TikTok is my baby. And then
Mm-hmm.
everything else grew from there. And I really understood that platform and all that kind of stuff. And then I developed an Instagram strategy a little bit later. But I want to like talk about you a little bit because you are the owner and the founder of Authentic Influencer Management Agency, which is so amazing. You manage a lot of creators, but you're also a creator yourself. And so,
Mm-hmm.
how did that journey develop from actress to creator to owner?
Yeah, so my background is in theater. I went to school for musical theater. My dream was to be on Broadway and in TV and film. So after I graduated, I moved to New York City and I auditioned and hustled. And I had a good amount of success, but I never reached the heights that I desired. And then I got married. And when my son came around, I realized, you know what? I can't run back and forth to the city and invest time and money, and it's no return on it. So I was looking for something different, and I wanted to channel the talents that I already knew that I had. But with that, as an actress, I had talent agents and I had talent managers. So I knew what that looked like. I had seen contracts that would come in for myself. I knew how they would navigate negotiations. And then I always felt very confident in my ability to see who was talented. You know, I really had I just have an eye for talent. I really do. I really do. It could be somebody who only has 5 followers or only who has never been on a stage, but I know when somebody has a gift. And then I also felt very confident in my ability to effectively communicate, particularly written. So I started creating. COVID hit. Nothing was going on. I had a friend that I had met, and she was a creator, and she didn't really monetize it, but we fell into a group of creators online that we would communicate with. I'm in New Jersey, and they were all New Jersey based. And there was a girl who monetized her account pretty effectively, pretty consistently. So we were amazed. We were stay-at-home moms. We didn't know nothing about how she was making this type of money, but I said, if somebody can do it, I know I can do it. You know, I could do this. So I started creating content. Back then, it was just static images on Instagram. This is before really like the TikTok days. And I hired a photographer. I hit the ground running. So I knew if I wanted to be able to position myself to make money as fast as possible, I was going to have to provide high quality content. I hired my photographer. I met with her weekly. I positioned myself. I created content that brands would be interested in, and I hit the ground running. And I did great to start. I really did pretty quickly. You know, there are creators who wait years and years and years and are never able to monetize because that veil is never lifted for them. You know, I had the benefit of being schooled by creators who had already done it. So it really put fuel behind me. So I negotiated my own contracts, was able to consistently work with brands. And I would have a lot of my creator friends that would ask me about different language in contracts, or like, Brie, how do I do this? Or how do I say this? And it's something that has just always come very easily for me. So after my friend asked me question after question, she was hitting me up day after day. She asked me if I would just manage her. And I said, sure. The agency, I tell people, literally fell into my lap because it was such an organic growth process. It was God ordained. It's something that comes so easily, and I am able to use my gifts, and I'm able to support creators and get behind them, the people that I believe in. You know, I'm excited about the creators that I work with because I see their talent, and I'm rooting for them for their wins. So quite literally, I started with one creator. She was my friend. And then people would ask me here and there. I have never advertised, not one
Wow.
day to get a creator. Everyone has, it's God ordained. It's been such a blessing. So it really just fell into my lap.
Wow, that's crazy. And honestly, it's so funny because I remember when like I was introduced to you through Avriel,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like, who is your manager? Like, you're getting 5-figure deals. Like, who are you? Who is managing you? Like, what is happening there? And she told me, and I was like, would you mind if I reached out? Like, because I was like, I need someone, and like all of these things. And it was like the by far the best decision that I made, because I was at the point where I was so overwhelmed with my emails and all the things that were happening, but I was getting overlooked by a lot of people. And I said to myself, like, somebody is going to see, like, somebody is going to believe in me and see the vision and all those things. And you did. And I'm so grateful that you did. But yeah, the cadence that you have in answering emails, girl, it could never be me. Like, the way that you are so on it, I am just like, you are a godsend, because the difficult thing about, I feel like, the influencer world is there is so much admin behind the
Yeah.
scenes. There's so much back and forth between brands and deals, and like the memos and the contracts and all that kind of stuff that people aren't seeing online.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is a full business. Like, when you
Mm-hmm.
just look at it like that, like, it's salary money, it's really good money. And so it's really hard to keep that afloat. And so do you have like a system or anything that you would recommend for somebody who is doing it solo, who isn't at that point yet where they're ready for a manager, to keep organized, stay on top of it so that they're maintaining a good impression with brands? Because I know
Mm.
personally, before I had you, I dropped the ball on communication with brands sometimes because I
Mm-hmm.
was like dealing with my daughter, working,
Yeah.
like doing all those things. So what would you say to somebody who's in that position right now?
Yeah, like particularly a mother, a parent who's your household is your main focus. I think taking care of things as soon as they come in is really key, because otherwise, you have a ton of emails that come in throughout the day. something's going to fall through the cracks. So attacking things when they come in, I think really is helpful, not only to just keep your business side of things in order, but because these people need answers quickly. You know,
Yeah.
when they're reaching out, these campaigns are being filled quickly. You can be overlooked. You can miss a deal if you're responding 6 hours later. If you're responding 2 days later, forget about it sometimes, you know? So I think just really being on top of things, being grateful, having a good business rapport, a kindness, speaking with kindness. These are people on the other side of these laptops who are working these deals for you. These are real people's jobs. So I think understanding that and just handling it the way you would any other business. But I think if you're overwhelmed, if you're trying to do things yourself and you really need a system that is not in place, really strategizing in your morning what you have coming in, what needs to be taken care of in order of importance, and really just having to attack that. Sometimes you have to push yourself. It's very difficult when you're a creator and you have multiple deals and you have to wear multiple hats and you have products that are shipping and you have to sign things and you have to send over concepts. It's a lot of moving parts, even when you have a manager. So I think just really attacking them in a timely manner makes a lot of sense, getting it off your plate so that ultimately you can do the most important work, and that's getting back to your family.
That's actually really, really, really true. And I like that energy. I think that that's something, I forget what book I read. I think it was maybe Atomic Habits or something. It said, like, for example, with your email inbox, if you're touching something, like, touch it once.
Yeah.
Touch it once and have it be done. Don't be like, oh, well, I read this now and I'll do it later. Just touch it once and have it, like, checked off your list in order to, like, move forward, because I know that's how things slip through the cracks with me, like on the social BFF side of things. When I'm talking with clients back and forth, I'm like, oh gosh, I'll respond to that in a little bit, and it slips through the cracks, and I'm like, it's like the reminder on your email 3 days later, and it pops
Totally.
up, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you can't let that happen. But it can so easily happen, but I like that. Touch it once.
Yeah, touch it once is, like, really important. So when people, I think a huge question that I've gotten over and over and over again is how to price yourself. And I have,
Mm.
like, my own system on, like, how I teach people how to do that. But when you're looking at a creator, let's say somebody has like 50,000 followers and they haven't done a ton of brand deals yet, what's your advice on how they build a pricing structure, build a media kit for themselves?
That's such a that's such a good question. It's a question everybody wants an answer to, and I think there's no definitive answer. My perspective has to be from an agency side, because it has to make sense across the board. So I have creators with all different followings. I can't send somebody with a $6,000 rate who has 30,000 followers and then send somebody who has 300,000 followers and it's only a $50 difference. Make it make sense. So across the board, it has to make sense. But if you are solo, I think asking around is very important. Asking your peers that are within the same audience level what their rates are, what they're able to produce, what their deliverables were for a certain campaign. I think asking around is really important. And then I think really having an honest eye with your own self. How is the content quality? You know, are brands consistently reaching out to you? Are you in demand because you can price a little bit better because of that? When brands really resonate with your content, your engagement is hugely important. It is not an influencer's job to sell product, but it is opportune for a brand to work with the creator who has an audience who's seeing the content. So while they can pay for ad usage, they can pay for paid usage on content, there's a premium that comes with somebody who has higher engagement. So I think just really looking at your metrics and being honest with yourself and looking at your content and the quality that you provide. And then your following has a bit to do with it too. So there's no definitive answer for that. There really isn't. But I think it has to make sense as far as the industry standard goes, which waivers, because, the other thing with creator rates is that we have full-time creators. We have creators that have 9 to 5s and do it as a side hustle. So while $1,000 may be amazing for one person, that's not going to fly for another person. An extra $1,000 for somebody's budget. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll take it. I just have to make a video. That's great for some people. But if this is your 9 to 5, your full time is creating, your worth, you have a consistent following and high engagement, then your rate is going to look different. How you value yourself is going to be different. So it comes down to, really how you value yourself, and then what you're able to truly, truly provide for these brands.
That's actually a really good point. And I think that that I've struggled with this where I'm like, when a brand's offering thousands of dollars for something and you're like, it's below your rate, walk away. I'm literally like, but like it's thousands, and I struggle with that because I'm still new
Totally.
in it being like my full-time thing. So I'm just like, really, I'm gonna turn down thousands of dollars, but then I will overload myself, and I'm like, oh, this is why you walk away from those smaller deals because you're like, you don't have the capacity to take everything on. And I think that let me know in your experience, in my experience, because I've started. I feel like we're now in a really great space where I understand we've been working with a lot of brands very
Yeah.
consistently. The deals have become consistent at this point. I'm like, okay, I know 4 is like my max that I'm doing in a month, and that feels like too much. 3 is kind of
Yeah.
like the sweet spot. For you, what do you think is like actually a really great spot for creators to be in when they don't have a team? Because I'm filming, editing, doing everything myself. So, how many brand deals should somebody strive for if they're trying to make this their full-time job?
I think it's depending on your rates. It depended on your rates. It depends on what your bottom line is for the month. Everybody's bills look different. If you need to make $20,000 a month, then baby girl, you better get 2 deals a week. And if that's what you have to do, I'm here to support that and help in any way that I can. But I think a sweet spot depends on your lifestyle. I have some creators who are 22. They don't have the responsibilities of motherhood. They can go out to events every night and look beautiful if they want to. And if you are, quick with editing and happy to do it, then more power to you. I think that's awesome. I think if you're in a stage of life of parenting and you have to show up and you're wanting to show up for your kids in a very real way, which takes real focus and it takes real time, um, for a month is probably enough.
Yeah.
And I think it also depends on, what the campaign looks like, what the campaign deliverables are, how much they have you doing. I have creators who have to fully stage productions, in their homes with decor and, so it takes the wind out of you. It is a lot to do. You see 30-second clips on Instagram or TikTok, but that can take a creator hours of brainstorming. It could take you to go into the store to get props. There's a lot that goes in behind the 30-second clips that people see.
That's actually a really good point. And it's so true in terms of like there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that I mean it's fun. Like I love
It's
it. And I
fun.
feel like if you don't love that, maybe it's not the right thing for you. Like you have to enjoy the process of creation, not just the final product or like the accolades that you get from it or the attention, whatever it has to be coming from a place of purpose. And you talked a little bit before about like your business being God ordained and having that like this natural ability to do certain things and how you maximized on that. So when you think about creators when they're working in their niches, I think a
Mm,
lot of people want to be a lifestyle creator.
mm-hmm,
And especially like moms, it's really fun to do all of the
mm-hmm.
motherhood stuff and share that. And I personally have struggled with that too. But what would you say in terms of like tapping into God, tapping into yourself, figuring out what is right for you? What's your advice on how somebody can figure that out and then translate it into their content?
Mm, that's really good. I think that I have two perspectives, right? So we have our Christian creators, and I love consuming their content. But if we're being honest from a business perspective, anytime you are proclaiming any kind of spirituality on a consistent basis, it's not always going to resonate with brands. And that's unfortunate. But my thought always is if the Lord is calling you to say something and he put something in your heart to be on in socials, even if it touches one person, there's a plan behind that. So I think you have to really seek the Lord. I think if the Lord put something on your heart in a fiery way to share, it's beyond business.
That's
You have to
actually
be comfortable with what is going to happen after that. But I think always the Lord is going to come first because he should be the CEO of your business if you're a Christian and if that's your perspective. But from a business perspective, anytime you are sharing anything consistently about your spirituality, sometimes that can diminish your brand deals and the brands that would be interested in you. That's the reality, and that's the truth.
That's so interesting. And it's like a pain point. I don't like that, but
I think you do a very good job, though, in balancing it.
thank you. I think
Yeah.
so too. I think so too. And that's been something like, I think because honestly, like I've dealt with so much hate online
Mm.
that I've talked to my therapist about this. Like my religion, my spirituality is something that I don't keep private, but I keep close to the vest.
Mm-hmm.
I only share certain things because I'm like, listen, I'm not ready for that to be attacked today. Not my God. Which is why certain things I don't put out there because I'm not willing to have a discussion about it. And
Yeah.
we're not talking about that. And that's why I think sometimes with the backlash with certain things with parenting and whatever, I'm just like, oh, I want to take a week off because I really felt like a mom needed to hear that. Somebody needed to be encouraged. But then I get a beat down in the comment section
Yeah.
and it really like pulse checks me for my own boundaries and what I'm sharing with my life. It can be a really, really hard space to try to navigate. But at the end of the day, I do think that I tap in and I always say, pray over your purpose.
Mm.
Pray over your purpose. And it's funny because there's been a lot of times in content creation when I've been like, God, is this for me? Is
Mm.
this for me? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Because I think that there's this energy that can sometimes feel outwardly vain. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
like that. I don't
Yeah.
want to, I don't want to just be like this, a pretty face or just be like, I want there to be substance there. I want people to be taking information away. And the beauty girls are being afraid and doing all the things. I love consuming all of the types of content. So
Totally.
it's no shade, no hate. But for me and what I'm putting out there, I feel really called. Like I have this message that I want to share. And so I've prayed so many times. And every single time it comes through. And he is like, keep going. He shows me.
Yeah.
I've asked for specific things. And so for anybody listening, if you're Christian or you pray to a God, whatever that looks like for you, bring him into the process. I think
Yeah.
that's such an important thing to do to gain that direction, to make sure that you always have that clarity in moving forward. Because I think that being an entrepreneur, a content creator can feel very lonely sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So bringing him into the process, you're like, okay, I got a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
confirmation in that.
Totally, totally. And for me, for the agency side, like I said, the Lord is always CEO of my business, and that informs the way that I even communicate. There are some times where I want to, yeah, and they have it coming, you know. But I'm representing the Lord in all that I do.
Uh-huh.
In all that I do. So I think even, as a creator, to totally pray on it. And if this message is for you, the Lord will speak to you about it. It doesn't always have to be you talking about your Christian walk. I love to hear that, but it doesn't always have to be that. It can be the fact that when we watch this person's content, we really feel a light of Christ in them. We just feel it.
Yes.
That's a feeling. It could be something as simple as that. It could be the kindness that you show people online and the way that you communicate with them. There can be so many other ways that who you are in Christ is shown. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, let me tell you about the Lord. That's for certain creators. And if you do that, I think that's awesome. But I think there are ways for us to make sure that we are representing the Lord in a very real way, in the way that he calls us.
Yeah. That's honestly a really, really good point in the way that he calls us. Because especially too, yeah, I don't feel called all the time to share like all of that side of me. Mine
Mm-hmm.
is very like women empowerment. Here's my healing journey. Listen, do you want to hear my therapy session? Like that's a lot of what I talk about. And I feel very, very called to do that. I think a lot of my experiences have brought me through a lot of things to be able to relate with women on that level. And even creating this podcast, sharing this space, bringing women like you on to talk about how are you managing your kids, your life, your relationship, and blossoming like online in front of so many people. And so you have two kids, two beautiful
I
kids.
do.
And you're married, happily married.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have been together forever, right?
Since we were 16.
Wow.
I'm 37.
That's
I know.
amazing.
And I can't believe it. I literally feel like I was 17 yesterday. I don't know how. I have two kids. I mean, I look up and I thank the Lord for it. When I'm driving the kids to school in the morning, I'm just praising Him. I'm in such a season of thankfulness that I have healthy, beautiful children, that I have a home, that I have food to eat, that I have a growing business, that I'm aligned with people that the Lord has put in my life. Everyone that I work with is God ordained as well. So it's just it's easy. It's not easy. My day to day is not easy, but I think I'm so filled up with such gratitude that I can show up in a consistent um, way and just work hard because I'm so happy to work. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to do this, to have a home, to have my kids, to have a business. I'm grateful to God.
Yeah. So, like, that's beautiful. And you have such a full life. And you talk a lot about your family being the center of it, the most
Mm-hmm.
important. But I know the business side of you. I know
Mm-hmm.
she's answering her emails quick.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, how are you balancing that? What does your day to day look like with two kids, a husband, making dinner, and being on top of work?
It never stops. I really never shut off, and I feel like at some point I'm going to have to find a better balance.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I'm making dinner, my laptop is up on the counter, you know,
Good
while
to
my
know,
kids are
though.
while my kids are eating, I might not always be present and having a conversation with them. My laptop might be with me while I'm eating with them and we're giggling together, but mommy's not always all the way present because that is what I have to do. But we have real dedicated time where we're one-on-one, where have things shut down. But for the most part, as a small business, as a person who oversees everything and really values that high touch communication with my creators, I'm never shutting down. It's my baby. My business is my baby, and I'm very on top of her. And I'll find a balance, a better balance at some point. But right now, I'm doing what I have to do to build.
I really feel that. And honestly, I appreciate the honesty because, like, I'll see your stories of you cooking dinner and whatever, and then you're responding back. And I'm like, she's so good, but how is she doing that? Like, I have a genuine curiosity because
Hmm.
I carry that a little bit of that mom guilt when I'm making dinner for Ivy. And I'm like, it's 6:30. I gotta upload this video. I gotta just,
Yeah,
sorry, babe, 1 second,
I know.
hashtag this, hashtag that. No, seriously, because like,
Yeah.
the scheduler does not work the same. The scheduler in Instagram, I have to press post myself. And so there's
Hmm.
certain things that like somebody else can't do, I have to do.
Right.
And it does come at a little bit of a sacrifice for that time. I don't think it's necessarily a sacrifice for our kids. Maybe
Hmm.
it is in a way, but she's fine. She's happy. She's living her life. You know
She's
what I
happy.
mean?
Mom is there. I think what's more important, and I think the value of being an entrepreneur, being able to work from home, and I know you can attest to this, being home and working as a creator full time, we're there. We could be working a corporate job. They could be in daycare until 8 o'clock p.m. We could be picking up McDonald's every night, but we're able to be home. We're able to be with our children. We're able to cook them healthy meals. So, you know, not everything is going to be perfect, but I do value the fact that I'm able to be home. And even if I can't be fully attentive all of the time, I'm grateful that I am able to be there with them.
That's really true. And that's why I'm so passionate too about sharing how other women can do this. Because before, when I was sitting in my 9 to 5, dropping Ivy off, I was literally like, I hate this and I hate my time away from her. And when you just said your business is your baby, that is exactly how I feel. I'm like, I love this thing. I want to nurture it. I want it to grow. And so yes, it takes time away from my daughter, but it's time away from her that's worth it because I can leave her
Totally.
something. Like, I want her to be able to work for like social BFF one day if she so chooses,
Mm-hmm.
because like I've poured so much energy, effort, and attention into it. And I say to people, it's like in my bio, it says mom to Ivy and the social BFF
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it
Yeah.
really is like another child. And I think when you think about it like that, it's just about creating the balance. And like, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, we had this podcast scheduled, this recording, and you were like, listen, I messed up and I'm volunteering at my kid's school. And you prioritize that. And that's the beauty of what you're doing and what you're building. You get to say, actually, I'm going to volunteer.
Without anxiety, without having to text the boss. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
It's
You
so
know,
true.
it's yeah.
It's so true. And even my friend the other day was messaging me that she was like late to work. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I didn't even, and I haven't even been out of work that like corporate side that long. But I was like, late for work? True. I don't even stress about what time. Like, I create everything in my own way. So it's so funny. And yes, it's such a good point to make. Like, you get to do it without anxiety. You just get to do it with so much conviction of it's easy. Obviously you're going to volunteer. That is what is important. And you know what I mean? And you message me and I'm like, oh, of course,
Understood.
absolutely. Moved. Like,
Right.
because I get it. And I think
Right.
that's what's so amazing about working with another mom, another
Mm-hmm.
woman of color. There's things that you get that I get. We're just like, absolutely. What's understood doesn't need to be said.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally.
It's so amazing. So let's think about 2025 as a
Yeah.
creator. What do you think like our creators should be focusing on? Like, let's say you're starting a brand new account, okay? Like on Instagram in 2025, and you want to grow, you want to be big, you want to make money, all of those things. What should somebody be focusing on?
I think really honing in on a real set niche if you're starting out new. So it's a crowded market. It's not oversaturated. Like if you want to jump in now, come on and try, but it is a crowded market. So I think being very specific about your niche so that you're able to target an audience with specific content that will keep them coming back consistently is key. I see that brands are really prioritizing long-term partnerships. So I think, really building relationships is important and really getting in well, creating good content for and communicating well with brands is very key. I think as far as like content style, going back, we're pushing more and more, particularly on Instagram, towards TikTok style content. And with that, I just mean talk to us. Talk to us. We want to know about you. Yes, it can be staged. Yes, it can be elevated, but if it's going to be elevated, let us feel like, okay, if I worked as hard as her, I could have that elevated lifestyle. We want to feel that. We don't want to feel like it's unattainable and like this person is sitting on top of a hill. We want to feel like we really understand who you are. So I think really speaking authentically to who you are, being vulnerable with your audience, making us fans of you is going to be key. So just really, really diving into more of that, like that content style on TikTok that hits pretty consistently, I think.
That's really true. And it's so funny because before we hopped on here, I made a video about, I see online so many people talking about how they miss like that 2000s, 90s, like nostalgia. Like everyone's craving like the nostalgic Christmas and all that kind of stuff, but we can't seem to put our finger on it. Like there's something that's like different about this time that we're in. And I was like, I think it's wabi sabi. There's this Japanese theory or yeah, like proverb that's called wabi sabi, and it's about basically embracing the imperfections in life. And I think that we have moved away from that because there was this time where Instagram was just so much about this perfect curation. Don't
Mm-hmm.
share anything about what's going on wrong in your life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't share. It needs to be this cut and edited grid picture of your family
Yeah.
posing and like everything's perfect, nothing's wrong.
Right.
And I think that that is it. Like people are just craving that realness. So it's like if
Mm-hmm.
you can bring that in your niche in whatever way that looks like, because it's going to apply differently to everyone's niche, but bring that in to 2025 of like, it's not perfect, but I'm here
Yeah.
and show up consistently, you'll be able to grow in a different type of way. And I think that's the reason why my content on Instagram has been able to pop off recently because I'm like, I'm talking to the camera, I'm not doing anything special.
Right.
But like people are like resonating because I'm like, here it is. Here I am.
Right.
It's not always perfect. It's not always pretty, but like here it is and people have connected with that. So I've seen the growth on that side. And I feel like
Yeah.
that is something that if you're wanting to grow, be authentic.
Be authentic. Yeah, I think it's so awesome to see the conversations that happen underneath your content, because people want to share and people want to feel like somebody else is dealing with something that they may have dealt with or are currently dealing with. So to see you, yes, you're beautiful. Yes, you're polished. You don't show up there looking crazy, but it's more about your healing. It's about the fact that you can present yourself authentically, not perfect, and still smile. I think there's such a beauty in that. So it's just really interesting to see the conversations that people have under your content. And it goes to show why your growth has been incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, well, honestly, we're both happy about it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it is really awesome. And I think that I'm like, we've had this conversation. I don't know if like a year ago, if I had done the same thing on Instagram, if it would have translated in the same way. I think it's like a specific shift that's happening
Mm,
online with people
yeah.
wanting to consume more real content over there, because
Mm-hmm.
that's why TikTok popped off, because it was this
Right.
space where everyone was like, take off the mask, just be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to show up in this very real, uncut way. And then it like took it opened the curtain to like life. People were sharing about motherhood. People were sharing, and that's how people popped off over there. And then it slowly trickled over to Instagram the last couple years. And now I finally feel like people are ready over there for like that talking content.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I think that's good for growth and audience engagement and building a community. But I think it's also telling. A lot of times I'm in brand meetings, and my creators that the brand side is most excited about are the creators who are genuine, who have friendship type talk content. They often follow them. Like, I think it's super telling if you have somebody who's on the brand side who follows a creator, because they come in contact with a lot of creators. They're very judicious about who they follow. So to have a fan on the brand side from the agency side, that's very telling. And it often is the creator who just speaks very authentically about who they are and present in that way. So I think that's also just a note for creators. If you want to work with brands, yes, it's about beautiful quality. Yes, it's about the growth. It's engagement, but very much at the top there is authentic conversation and building a community in that way.
That's actually so true. And now that you say that, like I remember a certain conversation that we had with a brand at the beginning of the year, and she had mentioned seeing one of my videos go viral, and she was like, I watched the whole thing. Like I was like, da da da. And I was like, that was the reason why I had gotten that deal. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like building basically an advocate like for you. Like you never know who's watching. And I think
Right.
that's something that's so important too. Because people get down about low views and this and that and whatever. And I'm like, you never know who's watching.
Mm-hmm.
You never know if the decision makers literally right there or in your comment section, in your
Right.
likes. So
Right.
you have to keep pushing forward in creating that content. That's such a good point.
That's a good note.
Yeah. So what else are you seeing like in meetings with brands and creators? What do they look for?
What do they look for? Well, oftentimes when I'm in the meetings, they've already hired a creator. Sometimes I'll do generals when they're talking about upcoming campaigns, but when I do get emails that are generals, oftentimes they're looking for diverse creators. They're really digging more into diverse creators, which is awesome to see. There often is less opportunity for diverse creators. So from the agency side to see that is really encouraging. So I think, our people of color, keep pushing the content out. There is room for you, and brands want to incorporate you more. Brands that have not consistently in the past definitely want to incorporate you more. I see size positivity. I see them looking for creators of all different sizes, which is encouraging as well. Um, you don't have to be a size 2 to be a fashion creator. I see brands that are fashion based that are looking for creators of all different sizes. So I think that's very encouraging. Um, but it's all over the place. It depends on the brand. It depends on the agency. But that's a little bit of what I'm seeing right now.
Okay, cool. And then I wanted to ask you, I've never asked you this before, but like when you're consuming content, you're scrolling online, like what's your content pet peeves that people do?
Ugh. Okay, so I hate like the old school cap cut, like transitions, like the fire on the screen and
That's
like, or like the
hilarious.
cuts. Some people are doing it really well. Like I love the like 3 frame type of thing that's
Yeah.
happening right now, where 3 different things are happening in 3 different frames. I think the editing style overall has really changed. It's cleaner, and it's not so much like magic happening. It's just clean. Keep it clean and keep it tight. But all the extra effects and everything, that I can't stand that. It definitely gives like you're really not in touch with what's going on right now. Nobody wants to consume anything like this.
Yeah, it's giving elder millennial.
Yeah. And I'm in the group, I think, right? I think I'm elder millennial, right? But I even know because from the brand side, from the agency side, I know that's just not hitting anymore. I also have developed a pet peeve for like perfect curation at this point. And I used to love perfectly curated content. Like I told you, I had my photographer, I had my high quality videographer. We were producing commercial quality ads that could go right on your TV. But it's just not what is, it just doesn't work anymore. And I think unless you are a creative and really, unless you're a photographer yourself, a videographer yourself, where you just consistently want to create with a high quality HD LR camera, everybody's using their iPhone. That's, and I think there's something to be said for that too. It's like you almost feel like it's more attainable, the content, when it is on an iPhone. When it's that super high quality HDLR, unless it's beauty, fashion, I feel like I don't want to stop my scroll for it.
It's true. And it's weird. It's almost giving like try hard energy.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't go to their page. I don't know. They could have millions of followers.
Right.
But I'm still like, I don't want to watch that. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Unless
I don't
like
know why.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about it, but I think it's that level of realness that immediately we're like, oh, it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd like to see that on YouTube though.
Oh, yeah, totally. Totally.
But on Instagram, I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah.
I don't need it on
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok, unless it's and maybe in a different niche. Like if you're showing me a video of Ireland, like it's like a travel something that could be higher quality. But in terms of the everyday stuff, you don't need it. And I think that people get so in their head too about starting content creation. They're like, what do I need? Da da da. I'm like, do you got a phone?
Yeah.
Pick up your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Your phone, CapCut, you're good. Like, let's go.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I think it's just a new day, and you have to really be in tune with the time and what people want to consume. So again, while I love the higher quality stuff, the day is now for iPhone. Pick it up, talk to us.
And the quality is so good on iPhone too that I'm like,
yeah,
turn on cinematic mode, and it's like you're making a movie already.
Mm-hmm. You know this.
My earlier YouTube videos, they're from my iPhone. Like I didn't, and I have a camera, I have the thing, but there was a lot that went into. I was like, F it. I'm just gonna put up my phone, and I just did that.
Now, what are you on right now? Is this
is just my laptop?
Is it? Okay. Your lighting though is crazy.
Oh, I have lights. I have.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm like, I can't. Like to me. And one thing that I've learned is people are very forgiving of bad visual. They're not forgiving of bad audio. That's why when people say too, like, oh, I don't have an aesthetic home, what do I do? I'm like, post it. What are you talking about? Like, don't let those things stop you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the creators that I follow have very regular homes. I still have to get over the 2019 perfect mansion type of creator, so I was when I was creating content consistently, it was like, I'm not posting my home. I would book peer spaces so that I would have spaces that I was confident in, and also the aesthetic that I knew brands were looking for, because brands were looking for a very specific aesthetic at that point. They wanted those white, bright kitchens. So I think that was very important before, but there are brands who are partnering with creators because they just want their audience to see what there is selling, or whatever product it is. So I agree with that, but it definitely takes getting over it if you've been a creator for some time.
That's actually a very fair point. And I think that's something that you mentioned too, that it's going to look different in 2025 versus when you started. But a key point that I want to call out is you said that you hired a photographer, you invested in yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's such an important thing to understand, like, because it's content creation and you're sharing your life, having a business mindset and thinking about investing in yourself is investing in your business right off the bat is so important. So if buying the light, buying a different camera, upgrading your phone is going to give you the confidence to be able to start posting, do it. Absolutely. I really think that it's so important to build the mindset of if you're going to be successful, you have to get better at making decisions quicker. Don't sit on, I think I want to be a content creator, and should I do this? And you've been thinking about that for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Press go, do it now.
Mm-hmm.
And so you made that decision for yourself and look where you are today.
Totally. I mean, there's always, you have to invest in yourself. You're going to have to. And if you're not going to invest in yourself, nobody else will. If you really want something, then you have to put the time, energy, money it takes sometimes to make it happen. And you will always see the return on that. You'll always see the return on hard work. You will always see a return on an investment, whether it's a financial return or whether it's a learning experience. But you'll always get a return on the time and energy that you put into something. So why not bet on yourself? The worst that could happen is that it takes a long time, but it's always going to work if you're consistent and stick with it.
It's so true. And I think that that's something that people just may not know, like that business owners are doing. Like, I'm buying courses, I'm getting, like, I'm working with coaches, I'm doing all that kind of stuff. I have you, like, there's so much that we do behind the scenes to make sure that you're elevating, because it's like the 6 figures, multiple 6 figures is nice. I'm just trying to scale to 7. You know what I mean? Like, it's like next level. You have to keep thinking about the next level to make things move if you want to have a bigger vision and achieve those things in your life. And so, last question before I let you go, because something that I really love to ask each one of my guests, this podcast is about how she does it. So if you could pick one word to describe how you do it and how you accomplish everything, all encompassing your life, your business, what is that word for you?
Just one word?
Mm-hmm. You could pick 2 or 3 if you really need to.
Intentional.
I love it.
Intentional. When you put intention behind things, your heart speaks. When you put intention behind things, you get a personal reward. It's a good feeling. When you put intention behind things, they get done. It's very difficult. My day-to-day, like, I got my Aura ring just like you. And the stress meter or whatever. Right? Every day. This was a stressful day. You were stressed during this time. It's like, oh yeah, I know.
That's
I know exactly what I was doing in that time.
It's
And yes,
so true.
I was stressed. I was trying to get the work done before I had to jump in the car and get the kid. And then I forgot this, so it's not easy. It's really not. But I'm intentional about enjoying the process and enjoying my family and not taking this opportunity for granted, because it's a blessing and it's something that years back I prayed for, and it's something that years before that I would have been amazed by. I did that.
That's so
God bless me
true.
with that. So I just try to remember that glory be to God. I am just so grateful for this season that I am in and what He will continue to do.
That perspective is beautiful. Looking back and thinking like what your past self would think of who you are today. And the word intention is perfect, especially going into 2025, starting a new year. Intention. Post with intention, lead with intention, create with intention, and you're going to end up where you're supposed to be.
Amen.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Brianna. It was a pleasure having you. Isn't my manager great? She's great. I know if you're listening, you're like, she's amazing. I don't know if she's accepting clients, but she's like, no, stop it.
I'm very happy.
Good. And I'm like, I'm planning on keeping you busier next year.
All right, let's get it.
Okay, well, thank you for coming on the podcast, Brianna. And that is how she does it.